Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's your friend ClaytonFilpo, and today we are talking about a myriad of things. Everything from YouTube, social media in general, algorithms, how these are playing out in your daily realities, a little bit of everything. So I encourage you to have an open mind. By the way, over the last few days, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, you can see it. I have gotten poison oak all over my arms. And, yeah, it's been a struggle. Also, this is the first time I've gotten to film a podcast, while it's still light outside, so that's pretty neat too. Most of the time I've been filming super late at night and then editing right after, so yay, very excited. To kick it off, YouTube has now introduced Smart Replies, where creators can respond to comments with phrases such as, "So true, you can do it," and "best of luck." So I was like, this is kind of interesting. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of this. Oh boy, it's like you want this genuine interaction in the comment section. Like, comments are supposed to be, personal. It's a personal response, and you reach out, you comment, you're excited, you're reaching out to me or whoever your favorite content creator is, and then they reply with like, "So true. So true. You can do it. Best of luck. So true. So true." It feels like a drawstring on the back of like the Woody doll. You know what I'm saying? So true. You can do it. Best of luck. It just doesn't feel genuine. So, Smart Replies, by the way, it literally sounds like an oxymoron because I think it's stupid. I think they should be called dumb replies. Yeah, because there's nothing more inauthentic than a cookie cutter response from somebody. So if you ever, if you drop me a comment below, I'm going to be a smart ass and just probably say, "So true, you can do it. Best of luck." Like, those three is all I'm going to say down below. Maybe I'm being a little bit cynical here, but I'd be pretty pissed off if I typed out this big long message to my favorite content creator that I admire and, I get, "So true. So true." You know what I'm saying? That'd be bad. Oh yeah, and I got a haircut. Yeah, I didn't give myself a little COVID cut. You know what I'm saying? And what happened was I actually was trying to do a fade. Yeah, homeboy, look at this. Straight up. I got high and tight right now. Hey, it is what it is, right? I was doing my little COVID cut, and I wasn't paying attention, and I didn't have my guard on, and I was like right here, and I went, Zzz. Bruh. I went all the way up, and I was like, well, looks like it's going to skin now. So it is what it is, right? Moving on. Let's talk about teleworking, okay? A lot of us have pivoted to teleworking now that COVID-19 has hit. And I've noticed that, personally, I find that when people reach out to me, especially during teleworking, they want an immediate response. And I find that very interesting because if we were ever around the office, there's a good chance that, they're going to shoot you an email and you'll get back to them whenever, or they'll come by your desk and you might not be there because, especially if you're in creative disciplines, you do a lot of walks, you do a lot of meetings, a lot of talking, you try to get your brain going. The same goes for text messaging, right? Where somebody texts you or they'll text like ding, 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 and they're like waiting for a response for like 2 minutes and they get mad. It's just an observation, but especially since we've gotten into like coronavirus land, I've noticed that the expectation of immediacy has greatly increased. So you have to set communication boundaries, and it's important that, one, you manage your time. I think with coronavirus here and everything else, it's given us a chance to really hone in on the work that needs done. You know what I mean? And you just have to be really guarded about your time because, one, I don't think anybody was meant to sit in front of a computer screen for 8 full hours every single day, glued right there. So I think it's important to get outside, to walk around, to make sure you have exercise time built into your day. All these things are very important as we pivot to this whatever we got going on here, the telework, you know what I'm saying? So it can't be healthy sitting in front of a computer screen or a TV screen all day long. So make sure you guys are getting out and about, doing a walk, doing 2 walks, And while there are drawbacks to teleworking, the good news is that technology has continuously improved to where it is now a helpful asset rather than a drawback. So 10 years ago, it might not have been as practical to do telework, whereas now, in just a very short amount of time really, cloud computing and digital workflows and file sharing and all this good stuff has really gotten to a point where it's it's seamless. You know, it's not a detractor anymore. It actually adds value to your workflow. And the pivot toward teleworking forced people to learn the technology that they had been avoiding for years. So in my eyes, the American workforce went from an analog way of thinking, you know, just go to work, go in the office, you know, pencil and paper, face to face, to where now COVID was like, yo, you jumping head first in, boy. And we jumped headfirst into that technological deep end. So in the end, this transition will be an enabler for both businesses and their employees, and will lead to more worldwide collaboration and communication. And depending how long this actually goes, I'm not even sure. I mean, who knows? We're going to look back and we'll be able to judge this video. But we don't know how long we're going to be teleworking. We don't know how long we're going to be in this, you know, flow of you can go outside, you can't go outside. We have no idea. So it's very likely that, hey, you never know. Businesses might even be like, yo, we can operate way better without having to keep all the lights on and all the heat and everything. It actually works better if you do it at home. So it's going to be interesting. And if that is the case, if that is true, we really have to get ahead of this and like understand, hey, all right, this is what to expect. We're teleworking for a while. We have to manage our health. We have to manage our mental health. We have to go get exercise. We have to go outside. We also have to be very focused and very like objective minded throughout our day, especially when we're on the computer. You know, if I'm sitting down at, you know, between 9 and 10 a.m., I want to make sure that boom, I'm doing one specific, or like I'm getting my specific tasks done. I've got all my other windows closed out. All these little tips to help you out. I've had people reach out to me and they're like, they're stressing and there's not even that much going on. They're just in front of the computer screen all day long, and again, that expectation of immediacy, they're afraid that they're going to get pinged and somebody's going to need something, so it's like it makes it harder. So yeah, just make sure you guys are, you know, getting your exercise, putting up your out of office message when you step outside or whatever, but I think that's really important. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the podcast. I found this thread on Twitter between Alan Johnson, Censor, and Prestige is Key. They're all gamer types, and in the conversation, they seem to all realize that if you say the word coronavirus or COVID on a YouTube video, the algorithms seem to kneecap your viewership. In fact, in the tweet, Alan Johnson points out that he sees a lot of YouTubers saying the current situation or, you know, everything that's happening instead of just saying coronavirus or COVID-19. And he was like, that's really weird. Is there any truth to this? And these guys all came back and they're like, hey, this is what we're seeing. If we say the word coronavirus, it stunts your growth. Now, I threw this out to my Facebook friends for their take on it, and I saw some folks that had some varying viewpoints. You know, these are all very, very smart people, my friends, you know, but at the same time, I was like, I don't really agree. And from their perspective, they were like, well, maybe this is the fight disinformation on YouTube. Someone linked to a podcast where apparently they're talking about how they're trying to fight disinformation by allegedly floating good videos or approved videos on coronavirus stuff to the top, while any of the other videos like mine right now, if I say coronavirus, it's probably going to get filtered to the bottom and stunted for viewership. Now, what really surprised me was how many of my friends actually seemed to favor this tactic, and I was like, hey, you know, if these allegations are true, it really does seem a little dystopian to me. And I very well could be just stunting the viewership right now just by saying COVID, just by saying the benign word coronavirus. No conspiracy, no crazy antics, yet I now run the risk of getting demonetized or even shadow banned, allegedly. We don't know. So that just doesn't seem right to me. And I also have to imagine that if YouTube employed this tactic, one factor would be the advertisers, right? We talk about advertiser models all the time. And, you know, if the advertisers get upset, they pull their ads because they don't want their ads to run on problematic content. So this may just be another example why the advertiser business model is so bad and why a pivot towards subscription is a good idea. Now, the average user's ability to discuss complex topics may get kneecapped just because a company is, you know, acting in an abundance of caution. They might be like, hey, we're being extra cautious. So anybody that says the word coronavirus is going to get stunted. So now, what the problem I have with that is YouTube is a place to go and express yourself. And part of that is you go there and we're supposed to be able to have these long form discussions like we're having right now. And if I even say something as benign as like, wow, the coronavirus has been stressful. Holy fuck, dude. I'm definitely going to get, I'm not even going to monetize this video anyway. Because, by the way, I turned on subscriptions. If you guys would like to help the channel, I plan to take all advertisements off. That's the goal, is to demonetize all the content so it's super available to everybody. And I would like to support the channel solely off of subscriptions. So if you enjoy the podcast and you actually like, hey, I like when I see Clay's face pop up and hear what he has to say. All right, cool. So, again, this is all in an effort to avoid the shitty advertiser business model. I don't like the corporations having their grubby mitts all over it. So, I think there's just better ways to do it. So, I don't know what the answer is of fighting disinformation on YouTube, but it just doesn't seem like the right response to me to just outright ban the word if it is true. So, if anything, blocking constructive conversation from public searches would actually turn sane people into conspiracy theorists or give existing conspiratorial thinkers even more firepower. But hey, what can you do? Again, these are all, I'm sure it's nothing nefarious, but at the same time, it's probably an overreaction from the really crappy advertiser model. And another big thing in the news has been the police, right? Police stations, all that stuff. And I think most sensible people would say that police should be funded more and therefore trained more, and therefore they're more apt to respond correctly into stressful or otherwise bad situations, right? And a more thorough vetting process, okay? So again, that only happens if you fund the police. But I follow some of my local police stations here, and I was looking at their Facebook page, and they advertised for a job, and it was the absolute worst graphic I've ever seen. And there's two problems with this. One, it looks like a kindergartner made it, and that's like so unprofessional. What message is that sending to potential applicants who are trying to find like a reputable station? It looks like it's goddamn drawn in crayon. And two, if you're trying to communicate a message effectively and you got shitty typeface and letters going up here and there and it's hard to read and the colors are all off, it's like, dude, what are you doing? So I'm over here thinking, hey, police stations could benefit greatly if they just hired one or two graphic designers or allocated some resources, aka training bucks, toward teaching Photoshop to their employees or whoever. So I've seen Facebook be a super useful tool for some of my local police departments where they do a great job communicating with video. That's super important. But when it comes to communicating with graphics, my local department is really terrible. So that's just a thought in my head. I think that there's a huge opportunity moving forward for whether it be distance education or people to come and mentor or whatever it might be. I'm sure some company has got to be turning their gears right now going, all right, we should be able to train police to communicate better. A lot of the problems, I'm sure, if people could just communicate better, I feel like we'd be so much better off. But yeah. So the other day I jokingly said on my Facebook, again, I'm enjoying using my Facebook as like, I never used Facebook before. I hate the platform, but now I'm like, hey, I'm going to find new and interesting ways to make it a useful place. So I jokingly said, I think voting should be done via Facebook and Twitter polls. Who is with me? The big debate right now is, hey, are we going to have election voting? Is it going to be delayed? Is it going to be over the mail? Is it going to be in-person voting? That's the huge debate right now. And everybody's losing their damn mind about it. So, I was being incredibly sarcastic. I do not think that voting should be done via Facebook or Twitter polls or anything like that, because these communication vehicles suck. And half of my Facebook timeline is people getting mad from whimsical opinions being promoted by algorithms that incentivize division. Again, I'm going to read that again. Half the people on my friends list are getting mad about whimsical ass opinions that are being served up to them by algorithms that incentivize division. So somebody replied to me and they were like, please, most people, their ideas are biased and they're based off emotion anyway. There's no difference between You know, somebody having an opinion on the street and somebody throwing it out there on Facebook. To which I said, you know, okay, opinions have existed forever. The difference is that opinions are now being served up to you based on algorithms, right? So if you're walking down the street, yeah, everybody's got opinions, but most of them are keeping to themselves, generally speaking. But on Facebook, you know, it's literally a place where opinions are being served up to you, and not just any opinions that are going to cause the most engagement. And what causes the most engagement on these platforms? Well, typically, it's rage, anger, and rage. That is a very, you know, influential emotion, anger, and that can lead down a bad path. And I'm sure these social media titans have to know that, you know, posts that elicit anger are going to cause the most engagement and therefore be incentivized by the algorithms. So we're going to go a little big brain. This is where we go down the rabbit hole. So when attempting to effectively engage an audience for a desired outcome, so if I'm trying to influence you, it helps to understand the audience better than the audience understands themselves. So if I'm trying to influence you guys, it helps if I understand a lot about you. Now, how do I do this? Data, right? A couple episodes back, you saw me smiling and grinning because I was looking through my analytics and I noticed that, hey, most of you folks are between the ages of 18 to 34, and the vast majority after that are even younger. So there you go. And I wrote down, now it just depends how you use it. So for me, for example, a couple podcasts back, I did an episode where for 1 hour we cleaned our rooms, and I just read you guys, basically told you guys stories, just BS with you, right? And I'm like, hey, I know I'm speaking to 18 to 34-year-olds. All right, let's try to get some of y'all to clean your room. I know I had trouble cleaning my room that day, so I was like, maybe we can do it together. Boom, right? That's using my data to achieve an outcome. I saw who I was talking to. I said, hey, this is what we can do. This is a common thing that we have here that we can achieve. And we acted on it, right? Okay. Well, let's go a little bit dystopian for a second, okay? Let's say that you just hit your 65th birthday and ooh-wee, that cursor is moving a little slower than normal on your computer screen, right? Your little mouse. Is there a dystopian future ahead where a third party can actively measure and capture very personal metrics to sell to, say, I don't know, your insurance provider? So let's say your insurance provider buys some data from a third party, and they see that right around your 65th birthday, hey, your hand is moving a lot slower. That cursor has slowed down a lot. As he's starting to, you know, whatever it might be, they could measure some very intricate data on you. And then what if your insurance provider was like, hey, we've noticed that this you have these symptoms. We're going to adjust your rate. You know, we believe that we need to charge you more. And so what I'm trying to say is these are like kind of far off things that people don't think about, but I think we need to be talking about it right now. And I'm not even sure if I came up with the freaking cursor thing. My little monkey brain, I'm sure I heard that somewhere else, but that's a intriguing thing to think about. Like, hey, how is data going to impact us 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now? We need to be thinking about that right now, as if we're even going to have mice in the future. But again, that's just where my brain's thinking. So again, because we understand that the more you understand about somebody, the more information you have on them, the more likely you will be able to influence them, or at least identify their needs, okay? So because of this insight, data has become the most sought after resource in the social media industry. In January of 2020, famed billionaire investor Mark Cuban touted the importance of data by saying, data is the new oil, okay? That's what he's saying. This is Mark freaking Cuban. He's saying data is the new oil. And now that's very serious, okay? In fact, Facebook is constantly finding new ways to try to get valuable data from its users. In May of 2017, Facebook introduced post reactions. You know, that's the haha, the laughing, the sad, the angry little faces, right? While these smiley faces may appear to be rudimentary forms of communicating, they're incredibly valuable to those who wish to understand their audience. By introducing reactions to their platform, Facebook users are now voluntarily, okay, you guys are voluntarily announcing to Facebook and to the world how you feel about the content that is being served up to you. So you are getting served content, and then you are voluntarily saying how you feel about it through these little emojis, okay? These simple yet critical sentiment gathering tools capture user data and aggregate it behind the scenes. Now, when a user creates a social media profile, they willingly and oftentimes unwittingly sign over the right for their personal data to be consumed by third-party entities. On the one hand, data tracking tools like Twitter's TweetDeck, right? So if any of you guys have a Twitter account, you can go to tweetdeck.com. Boom, you can schedule your own tweets. Right there, a little secret. PapiFilpo coming in hot. If you want to check out your analytics for your own Twitter, analytics.twitter.com. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Analytics.twitter.com. Boom, see all your analytics. And these are owned by Twitter, and they provide a wide variety of analytics and measurements for content creators to identify peak posting hours, capitalize on trends, or engage user interests. On the other hand, there's plenty of room for bad actors to capitalize on data tracking tools. I found this one very interesting. So, a 2019 study published by Plus One outlines the connections between Filipino news consumers and social media reliance. In the study, researchers found that 63% of participants said they rely solely on Facebook for news. So the study goes on to say, in a country like the Philippines, where the population does not have a strong history of journalism and news, Facebook's role in the shaping of politics and citizenship is likely going to be bigger and will happen faster than in more developed and stable democracies. The potential of Facebook to bring in and create larger audiences for news is strong, but this also meant that the bar for what counts as news is low for most of these audiences. So it is an evolution. It's an evolution of reliance on Facebook for news, and I get a little freaked out by that because I don't want anybody having just one stream of information, just one source of info. But it's going to be super interesting in developing countries as internet infrastructure starts to blow up and boom, and they get more access to the internet. And obviously, I'm sure Facebook's going to be there, and it's going to be interesting because we talk about arbiters of truth, who is, it gets interesting about censorship and stuff like that in 2020. And I just thought that was very interesting how, on Facebook, for example, algorithms, right? Very flawed algorithms in some cases are serving the content up to you. Some of which is literally intended to make you mad because the post elicits anger, right? And it gets picked up by an algorithm. And then how is this going to impact developing countries like the Philippines or even less developed countries, whereas they, get more internet infrastructure and companies like Google and Facebook move in? It's just going to be very interesting to see what happens. And then I wrote down, the Harvard mathematician Eric Weinstein eloquently compares the media landscape to spectators at a baseball game. So Weinstein explains that, let's say you're sitting in a baseball park, right? You got a baseball game going on, and you're sitting over here behind home plate. And then you got a buddy who's sitting out here all the way out in left field. So you guys are on two completely different angles, right? But you're watching the game, and the pitcher pitches the ball. Ready? Here we go. Pew. Pitches the ball, and you see it, and you see a strike. You're right behind the catcher. You're like, that's a strike, dog. But your buddy's sitting all the way over there. He sees the same pitch at the same game and everything, but just because of where he's seated, he sees a ball. Okay? And, what Eric's trying to make a metaphor or analogy about here is reality. Reality in 2020 is like the analogy we just spoke of, where everybody has a different seat at the ballpark, and we could all see the same thing happen right in front of us, but this person saw this and from their angle, and this person saw that from their angle, and that's just where we're at. Everybody has a different reality, and that's where social media is really blowing shit up, because people, one, bad vehicles for communicating, really terrible way to get sentiment and have a discussion, and already off the rip, people are coming from polar opposites of complete misunderstanding, and it's crazy. It really is. I mean, this is just me observing, in my opinion, where I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I just watch the people bicker at each other on Facebook, and I'm like, this is crazy. There's got to be a better way. I wrote down, I think now that coronavirus has hit and everyone is all stuck inside, we're attempting to discuss complex topics on Facebook and Twitter and all these bad vessels, right? And we're realizing that these communication vehicles really really suck. So in this podcast, we talked about everything from analytics, big data, teleworking, internet infrastructure in developing countries before these companies come in and give them all of their, reality bending news. And that's what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing social media, just have a really negative impact on people right now, especially when, the narratives and the news spinning and stuff like that. It can be the exact, here's an example, right? Here's where everybody's in a different reality. If a plane crashes, let's say a jet goes down, on Fox News, it's going to be like, military hero patriot ejects out of, military aircraft and saves 1,000 people by ditching it into the woods. Same event, but on CNN or MSNBC or whatever the hell, they're going to say something completely different. That's going to be like, military wastes millions of taxpayer dollars on down jet for lack of training. Like, just boom, right? So you can have the same event happen, but there's completely different realities being crafted from the narrative. And then people are then going onto these bad communication vehicles and essentially bitching at each other. I don't really know how else to put it. And it's really sad. It's really sad. So I think that all the topics that were mentioned in this podcast are worthy of discussion. But if you post about these things on Facebook or Twitter, good luck garnering any meaningful engagement or having a shot at thorough discussion. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys. Hey, I know this is YouTube at the moment, at the time of filming this right now, It is what it is, 2020. But, actually, what date is it? I'm over here. August 17th, 2020. And we're stuck on YouTube until we get a better vessel to communicate on. So I appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I've got the subscription button. If you guys would like to support the channel, I've got options as low as, I think, $1.99, $4.99, and it's crazy. I know there's like one other tier or something like that. So support the channel if you'd like this to be ad-free. And if you just believe in, hey, if you like what I'm saying about the subscriber model, let's do it, y'all. Support the content you love. And that's it. I appreciate you all very much. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Leave me a comment below. Just let me know how you're doing, or comment on something from the podcast. And if you do head over to the podcast with the boys going in raw, the Pennies podcast. Let me see if I get that right. That's right. It's called Pennies, Going in Raw. Make sure you say ClaytonFilpo sent you. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time.